trajectory of your career and the quality of your life. At this crossroad, you have three choices. First, you can do nothing, continue on the path you're on and keep hoping things are going to change. Second, you can walk alone trying to navigate the complexities of the industry without guidance. Or third, you can choose what I believe is the best option, having someone who can help you choose the exact path you need to take and help you get there. And that's my invitation to you today. This is your crossroad.
Somebody dies, somebody's disabled, somebody has a disaster in their life, somebody is ready to retire and they're thinking about, do I have enough money? The attorney that they've had for 20 years is not bringing them a check. The accountant that they may have had for 20 years is not bringing them a check. You're the one who's bringing the check or arranging for it. How much more awesome could you possibly be? But even in the first appointment with someone where you're getting to them to think about money, think about organizing their thoughts around money and protecting their families, that's awesome.
In the meantime, the guy who bought his land was watering his animals, and he looked down and picked up a stone, and it turned out to be a huge diamond. And Golconda diamond mines became the biggest diamond mines in existence in the 1700s. And the diamonds from that mine ended up in the crown jewels of the English monarchy, the crown jewels of the Tsar, and they were all on his property. Why am I telling you this story? You're going to chase shiny objects, new ways to prospect, new ways to market, all these things. Do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But start in your own backyard, because that's where the diamonds are.
Get a coach. Sandy. Get Sandy to be your coach. And I'll bet you any money you'll get back 100 times more than what it costs you to invest in your career. I can't tell you how strongly I believe in this. Again, if you really listen to what we just talked about, having a coach helps you organize that so you do it in the most effective and efficient way possible.
All right, welcome everybody. And we are going to be talking today about growing your practice to $1 million, what it takes. This is not just something that I invented. I've worked with advisors at every level, and working with top advisors has given me insight into the difference between them and the rest of us, basically. And understanding that, I've now helped people reach those numbers. If they were in the low 200s or 300s, we got them past 500,000 in gross income from all sources. And if they were in the 5, 6, 7 range, we got them over $1 million. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, this is a slide presentation. There is a slide presentation, but I want to give you the most value I can. So I'm talking to you in front of the presentation for the moment, just to ask you some questions so I understand where you're coming from and why you're here. And so let's start with this question. Use the chat and let me know, is your focus investing, life insurance, both, something else? How do you identify, and what services do you perform for whom? And give me that so that I have a good understanding of where you are now. So make sure you can find the chat. There's a little delay while we get people to tell us that. Yeah, okay, good. So now I'm getting some answers. One answer. Come on, we can do better than that. It's really going to help if we can make this at least a little interactive. So please give us a sense of where you are, who you're working with now. And while you're at it, how many years have you been at this? Because that makes a difference too. And while we're talking about it, what do you see as your biggest challenge? So we have people almost 30 years in the business, investment, life insurance, Medicare supplements, life critical, P&C. Okay, we've got a wide range of people doing a wide range of things. Couple of more answers, and then we'll get into the presentation. So, what's being an advisor about for you? You know, the work that I do, having been licensed for just about everything you can be licensed for, I made the decision that I wanted to help advisors create the business that they love to work in. What's it for you in helping your clients? Is it the money? Is it the freedom? Is it just the fact that you can help people in a very technical area? Good, I'm getting some answers. I appreciate that. Couple more and we'll get started. I know people are shy to do this, so working with women, thank you, Anna, that helps me a lot. And it's good for all of us. Let's get started. Can everybody see the screen? Because that's important. If you can't, we're not gonna go in. I can ask you if you can hear me, but if you can't hear me, you won't know that I asked the question. Um, so let's look at the chat again, and let's move
I
us
am Sandy Schussel.
forward. Whoops, we did that already.
And over the past 2 decades, I am.
So we're getting into it. This is not another training for people who are just starting out or struggling to get to six figures. It's clear that if you're just starting out, you need a training program. What we're going to be doing here is talking about something that goes beyond basic training. So if you're in your first few years, you're welcome to stay and watch the whole program, but the program really isn't designed for you. What we're going to be talking about, though, is what happens, and it happens industry wide, after you reach that six-figure level. Growth starts to slow down significantly and becomes sporadic. And this happens to almost everybody. The question is, how long do you want to be there? Everything that you do gets you back basically to where you were last year. So, if you're not increasing assets under management, if you're not selling more insurance products than you did last year, you end up roughly in the same place. And there's a reason for it that we're going to be talking about. So, what some advisors do is they try putting in longer hours to fix it, but it just doesn't get fixed. Or they start looking for all kinds of solutions. I call them chasing shiny objects. They're jumping from one basically outdated tactic to another and still not seeing their growth accelerate. So my question for you is, does any of this sound like what's happening to you right now? And the way I'd like to have you answer that question is I'm going to give you a little poll that says, why are we here today? And if you can see this poll, if you can't see this poll, let me know. But if you can, answer one of these questions. I'm here because first, my business isn't growing as fast as I'd like it to. Second, my slow months are way too slow. And third is, I'm just curious about the content. And this will tell me some stuff. I'll give you another 30 seconds or so. Let's get some more answers here. Good. Okay. This gives me an idea of where we are. So for some of you, this is going to be directly relevant. For the others, I think everybody can pick something up from it. Let's end the poll. Let's show you the results. And then let's get rid of let's get rid of the poll and move back to this. So the best way for me to explain what happens is to tell you a story about my client Ron, who is an advisor in Cleveland. Now, Ron's captive and he's got a very tough compliance department, so I can't use his name and his words, but I have other people that you'll hear how they react to some of the things that we're talking about. So here's Ron's story. Ron was an investment advisor representative. He had around 200 clients. His gross income when I first saw him a couple of years ago was 225,000, and that included planning fees, management fees, life insurance sales, annuity sales, and he was working 40 to 50 hours a week because he wanted to grow his business bigger, but he kept finding that he was ending up in the same place. He was servicing all his clients as best he could. He ended up pretty much in the same place, 5% up, 5% down. He wasn't really growing, and he wanted to grow, but nothing was working for him. And here's the things he tried. He tried expensive dinner seminars. You see here the photo of plate liquors. Got a lot of plate liquors. Occasionally he would get someone, and maybe or maybe not, they would turn into a client. But then he'd get the bill for anywhere from 6,500 to $10,000, and he'd be saying, "Well, this isn't working for me. I'm spending more than I'm making out of it." He was buying leads, as a lot of advisors do, and they're supposed to be qualified leads. But if you've done this, you know that it just doesn't work the way you would want it to work for the most part. It wasn't working for him. He was networking in three different networking groups. Two of them were business groups, and the other was some other kind of group. And he wasn't really getting referrals from that. He wasn't really getting business from that. He was spending hours online posting and responding to other people's posts. He even tried Facebook advertising, and he spent over $10,000 in Facebook advertising. And he bought the training of an advisor who was successful in offering to show how you could do what I do and make the same money. And what he discovered instead was that it just didn't work for him the way it worked for them. So nothing that Ron was trying was working for him. And someone recommended that he talk to me, and that's how I met him. And it was clear in talking with him that Ron was basically on a plateau. And that is, you work just as hard or harder this year and you don't make the same money, or you do increase a little, but all the extra effort wasn't worth it and you weren't getting further along in your business. I'm guessing some of you could tell me in the chat, does this sound like you? Does anything here sound like your situation? All right, one or two say yes, that's fine. It's not Ron's fault, and it's not your fault if this is where you are. This is an industry-wide problem, somewhere above the $10,000 a month mark, somewhere above $100,000. Most of that wonderful, exhilarating, accelerating that you did when you finally got understood the business and started to grow slows down to a point where it basically levels off. Now, it could be a short-term leveling, it could be a long-term leveling. For Ron, it was 3 years. And there's research behind why this happens. And the five top reasons are: first, that the advisor is relying too heavily on unsolicited referrals from existing clients. Now, what that means is, number one, I'm relying on unsolicited referrals rather than asking for referrals, or if I ask, it doesn't work very well. And the second thing that it shows is that I'm not doing enough other kinds of marketing to get past totally relying on referrals. The second reason that research shows us is that in their marketing for new clients, they don't have a clear niche. It used to be you could advertise that you help everybody with everything and whatever their problem is, you can solve it. That doesn't work anymore. It hasn't worked in a while, but it's taking people a while to catch on that that's true. The third reason that you plateau is that and the third and fourth are kind of related. The third reason is that your time is being consumed by low value tasks. You don't think you can afford to hire an assistant, so you're doing all the work. And every hour that you're spending doing back office work or following up with compliance or following up with underwriting, following up with clients, you are losing hours that could be spent on prospecting. So that's the third reason that research shows. The fourth reason is that you don't have scalable systems or team support. Maybe you have no support. Maybe you have a part-timer that you don't know how to delegate to, but those things suck up your time and leave you not able to grow your business. Of course, the other part of growing your business is you have to know what to do, but if you don't even have time to think about that, there's no way that you can help yourself off that plateau. And the fifth reason, which I always think is one of the most important, if not the most important, is mindset blocks and the fear of change. And this is something that probably needs to be addressed before anything else. So there are more reasons, but these are the top five. So it was clear in my first conversation with Ron that he didn't need more information. He needed transformation in the way he saw himself in the business, in the way he worked with his clients, in the way he approached new business, and in the way he marketed his business. And we discussed how he could do that. Before I get into the three steps, which I want people to understand are the basis for what we're going to be talking here, as a precursor, always there's a situation where you need to look at the way somebody is thinking and how he's responding to his environment. He or she is responding to their environment. And Ron, in our second or third appointment, Ron was talking to me about this couple that had made an appointment with him and then didn't show, and then called to apologize and reschedule and didn't show a second time, and then called again and tried to set a third appointment. And then a week before the third appointment, they called again and put it off for a month. So we were now waiting for the fourth time that he had planned to see them, where they either didn't show or they canceled. And Ron really wanted to work with this couple because he had heard through one of those networking groups that they had money, that they were looking for someone to sell them insurance, that they could be ideal clients for him. But he was angry and frustrated that he couldn't get them to actually sit down with him in an appointment. And he was asking me, what should he do? And I asked him a question. I said, Ron, who's the best advisor in Cleveland? And we were working face to face online. And I could see that the wheels were turning. He was thinking, what do I mean by best? Do I mean the one who's making the most money or the one that he thinks is the smartest? Or, and I could tell that clearly from his face and the way he was thinking and hesitating to respond, that he wasn't thinking of himself at all as the best advisor. So I said, thank you for that answer. And he said, what do you mean? I didn't answer you yet. And he said, I said, yeah, but you gave me what I wanted to know. And it was clear that you were thinking about the best advisor, but you just didn't see yourself in that role at all. And he said, well, that's true. I don't think I'm the best advisor. I said, Ron, if you were the best advisor in Cleveland, how would you handle this couple that kept canceling on you? Now, this time it took him a second to answer. He said, well, if I were the best advisor in Cleveland, I would either tell them I can't work with them, or I would tell them that, I'm going to give them one more chance. And if they can't keep the appointment, they're not very serious. And after he said that, I could see his eyes light up. Like this wasn't about anything else but how he was acting, reacting, and speaking when he was with a client. And this was the first of many things we worked on in his mindset. It just presented the opportunity to me to talk to him about it. And he was, yeah, I guess if I acted and reacted and spoke like the best advisor in Cleveland, I'd be handling my whole practice differently. And that got us started fixing the problem that's the precursor to the other problems. Now, I can't tell you what Ron had to say about it, but I want to share what Karen, who I helped move from 700,000 to 1.4 million with her partner, had to say.
My name is Karen McNabb, and I'm a CFP in the Virginia Beach, Virginia area. Sandy has been instrumental in my growth, in my practice, and in my career. So the first thing that we do is clear up the head trash. When you focus on the things that matter, you begin to grow. And it's a really powerful, it's a really wonderful thing. And I'm getting goosebumps as I'm talking to you about it because it's the best decision that I have done for myself in my career. My name is Karen.
So breaking into that head trash helps. Now, I want to focus on these three steps that I'm going to be talking about. But the big questions for you here and now are one, do you want to break through the wall? I've talked with people, with dozens of people, have a conversation with me. They don't really care if they move forward from where they are. They're happy with their living they're making. And if that's you, there's really nothing anybody's going to do to help you. And of course, the second question to be answered is if you do want to break through, how do you do it? And I want to tell you a little bit about my history so you know how and why I know what I know. Will somebody just say, okay, we want to hear it? Because if you don't, I'll skip it. And who's ever got your microphone on, would you please mute it? That would help us a lot. Okay, we got at least one okay. So why listen to me? For 25 years now, I've worked with advisors at every level, top of the table, top of their firm, top producer in their broker dealer, down to people who are just starting out at 23 years old. And so I'm not talking to you from my own experience. I'm telling you what I've learned from these top advisors, working with them at every level. So before all that, I was an attorney with a successful practice. I knew how to get clients. I knew how to keep clients. I knew how to make clients happy. But I was dealing with a practice that was 60 hours a week and stressful. Everybody was fighting with everybody. Even when you won a case, people weren't happy because they had to pay for it. It was brutal. And I developed a health issue that I basically was ignoring. I was bleeding from a place you're not supposed to bleed, and I was ignoring it. And I'm showing you a picture here of me with my daughter, the bright spot in a 16-hour day when I didn't have to go to court and I could spend the morning with my kids. That was my life. That's what was important to me. And I didn't take care of the problem until the last day of the year. I was taking them to visit their old babysitter, reaching for the heat because the heat in the car wasn't working, and the car caught itself in the median and flipped over and over and over. And we walked away from this accident. So I said to myself, well, if we could live through that, how bad could whatever's bothering me be? And I finally went to get it assessed, and it turns out I had colorectal cancer. I had a year of disability, two surgeries, chemotherapy, radiation therapy. We filed for bankruptcy because the medical bills were so high, and even having coverage didn't work very well back at that time. And I made the decision I want to do something else. Here I am at 112 pounds with my two little girls. the day before I went back in for my second surgery. So this was not a fun year. And when I realized I was starting to recover, I said, I'm not going back to that stress. I'm going to do something different. And I started a program of seminars and training on how to get clients, how to motivate your staff, how to manage a staff, how to provide world-class service. And that led me to a broker-dealer and life insurance company called First Investors. Some of you may remember this company, some of you may still know it. And what that led to was me getting licensed with a 663, 724, 65 life and health licenses, going out into the field, and then being invited to go out into the field all over the country with other advisors. At the time, we called them reps, but with other advisors to learn what they were doing, what they weren't doing, what was working, what wasn't working. And remember, I brought a background with me of being successful at the work I did as an attorney. And there's definitely a crossover in how you get clients, how you keep clients. They eventually made me the national sales training director for the company. And one of the things that I did, in addition to bringing people in for training from all over the country, was to start a coaching program because I noticed that sales training was great for about 3 weeks, and then you were back doing the stuff that you used to do. And so this was a program that I added to what we were doing. And then in 2011, when the company was sold, I decided to take myself out and do coaching full time. But while I was there, I published two books that they didn't become bestsellers, but I sold a lot of books. One was Become a Client Magnet, about strategies to increase your client attraction factor. And the other was The High Diving Board, How to Overcome Your Fears and Live Your Dreams. As an attorney, I feared there was nothing else I could ever do. And here I was now in this business and having success in this business. So I wrote those two books. When I went out on my own to coach, these are the kinds of things that I would coach on. Get more clients, get better clients, manage your time and avoid your distractions, create systems and learn to really delegate to the people that are helping you and, yeah, giving their job, having clear jobs for them all and understanding what you're supposed to be doing and what you're not supposed to be doing, so that most of my clients, when they work with me, find they don't have to work any harder. They just have to have that change, that transformation that Ron had to have. Now, I'm fortunate in the sense that doing this work and doing it with people at every level got me into writing for publications like the MDRT blog, Think Advisor, Insurance Portal in Canada. I got a chance to do speaking and training in two national forums. I stood in front of 700 people at the Canadian Sales Congress. I did a training for the MDRT Academy. I've worked with IARFC and these other companies. And it was there that I learned, working with all these people really helped me do this. So somebody asked me, are you Canadian? No, but they actually allow some of us from the US to work in Canada. And Jim Ruda, who's a friend of mine, invited me to address the Canadian Sales Congress. I do work with several Canadians, so that shouldn't be an impediment if you're Canadian and thinking, well, this guy can't work with me. Yes, I can, because the problems are all over the world. I've worked with someone in India, someone in New Zealand. Everybody has the same challenges, and often it's about the plateau. So we're back to the question, and thanks for indulging me in that history. How do you break through? And we're going to talk about the three steps. And step one is a step that I call mine your gold. And what you need to know is that you are sitting on clients that could be a source of more business to you, and that could definitely be a source of referrals to you. And what you should be doing is taking the top 20, 10, 20, 30, the people that aren't just A clients, the ones you would want to replicate. You would want to put on a copy machine and copy them and make more copies of them, have 100 of them, and you wouldn't need anybody else. You want to be able to do two things with them. I'm going to talk to you about them, but here's a statistic I thought would be helpful. The average advisor is only capturing 30 to 55% of their top clients' assets. That means that if you're in the business of accumulating assets, investing clients' money, you are missing a lot. And you're talking about old 401ks they didn't tell you about, IRAs they didn't tell you about, investments with other people that they didn't tell you about. There's more business to be done with your existing clients. Here's another statistic that I use pretty much all the time. There's a marketing expert in the business, Julie Littlechild, who reported twice, actually three times. It was a study in 2010, a study of clients that determined that 98% of engaged clients refer at least once in the last 12 months. So think about that. If you had top 20 clients and every one of you gave you one really good qualified referral, would that change your practice? I mean, tell me in the chat, if you just did that, would that change your practice? Yeah, of course. So let's talk about what you do. First of all, you want to isolate that top 20 and you want to really assess the service. Are there things you left out in your service? Did you not talk to them recently about putting living benefits into, as a rider to an insurance policy? Did you not talk to them about converting term to permanent insurance? Did you not talk to them about their assets and things like that? So you want to go back and look at that top 20 and serve them incredibly. But here's a part that most of us miss. They need to be surprised and delighted. I mean, think of this. You're looking for them to send you even an unsolicited referral. The only way that usually happens is a friend or a family member says, "Oh, I just left my job. Do you know anybody that, could help me figure out what to do with my 401k? Or, I need more life insurance. Who are you using? Do you know anybody that can help me?" And that just rarely happens. But here's what happens if you learn to surprise and delight them. And you can really only do this with your top 20 and then automate all of your other client delight stuff. Here's what happens. You do something surprising. They're going to dinner for their anniversary, and a bottle of Prosecco shows up at the table from you as your gift for their anniversary. They go home and they tell people about it. If you're getting them to talk to people and they're telling people about how surprised and delighted they were, then the other person is saying, "Well, I have an advisor I never hear from. Tell me more about yours." And I'm going to show you a statistic later. 57% of the people who have advisors aren't happy with them. Can you imagine that? 57%. So surprise and delight them. They'll talk, and the people they talk to are going to be interested in talking with you. And then finally, there is an easy, comfortable way to ask for introductions. And I'm going to tell you right now, the main secret of it is stop asking to grow your business. Stop asking for you and ask them if they're happy and who else that they would want to help. Now, I have a small program, a video program that some of you are in that program who are on this call today. And what we learn is there's a 10-step process for getting easy, comfortable referrals. And you should be doing it because if you don't bring it up, the first time I asked a client for referral as an attorney, he said, "Oh, I didn't know you wanted more business like mine." They don't think of it on their own, and you have to do things to help them think about it. If you do these things, you're mining the gold. Here's what Julia had to say about learning this
He
fact.
really teaches you how to build trust with your clients. So that's why I found his services to be extremely helpful to me, also to my husband, who I work with, and even to our team. With that came increased sales, of course, money, success, and all of that, all of those monetary things. But even within myself, I think the confidence to get there.
So that's step one. Step two is to have and own a niche. And people resist this, and it's a mistake to resist it. In Ron's case, what I told him, and this is straight out of my book, Become a Client Magnet, that he was another white crayon in a box of white crayons. And what I meant by that is that if you take a 6-year-old and give her a box of white crayons, it doesn't matter which one she pulls out, they're all the same. And the idea that I expressed to Ron is, first of all, you have to choose a specific box, and then you have to be the red crayon in that box. And he understood what I was trying to tell them, that he needed to pick a niche and to really own that niche, to be the go-to person in that niche. And Ron's problem was that choosing a niche, if he looked at his top 20, a couple were business people, a couple were people that had kids the same age as his kids and he met through school. A couple came from his networking group, a couple came from somewhere else, and he didn't really know how to choose a niche. Anybody have any idea what he decided to choose as a niche? Take a guess, throw it in the chat. All right, nobody can guess, so I'm just going to tell you. We decided that small business owners in Cleveland, right? So Maria, you got it right. Small business owners in Cleveland, and that changed a lot of things for him. But one of the things that Ron was concerned about was, well, wait a minute. If I tell people exclusively that I work with business owners instead of what he used to say was business owners, young families, individuals. If I narrow it that much, won't I lose people? Won't that be a problem? And I explained to him the story that's in the book, which is a true story about Tina, who was so reluctant to tell people that she worked with older women who were single, either because they were widowed or divorced or chose to be single, and they were worried about their financial future. And in that story, Tina decides she's going to do what I suggested, which is to tell whoever she met that that's her market. And she was talking to a 29-year-old who said, "Well, obviously that's not me. Do you ever work with anybody like me?" And she said, "Well, yeah, but only if you're very serious." And he said, "I am." And called me and said, "It worked, but it worked backwards." And I said, "Why do you think that's backwards, that somebody that's not in your target would want to work with you?" That's the way it does work. It's not backwards. You become more interesting to them by having a niche than you were when you didn't have a niche and sounded like every other white crayon. And Tina, of course, got it right away, and that's what she did from then on. The next thing you want to be able to do is get rid of the old elevator speech idea, and you want to craft what we call an explanation of services for that niche with a particular problem that niche has, so that once you express yourself this way, then it's easy to say, "Hey, if you believe the same as I do, let's sit down and talk." And it's an instant increase in the number of people who'll be willing to sit down and talk with you. And so I'm going to share the steps with you, and this should help you a lot. First of all, you start with I believe. I believe that small business owners in Cleveland are paying way too much in taxes. Then you tell them why you believe it. I believe that because my parents had a business like that and I know what they paid. And I've worked with business owners and I see their situation. And there's so many ways that they can save on taxes that they're not even looking at or don't know about. What I do as a result of that I sit down with them, take a look at their whole business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, then you can tell stories of people you've done it for. And if it's a brand new niche for you, you can tell stories that you know that other advisors did that got you to that place. What were their results? What happened to them? And then the easy yes offer, which is, look, if you believe the same way and you think this is a problem for you, let's sit down and talk about it. What's your schedule look like next week? And it's so easy to do this if you have this ready for you. And so it's almost like, well, before I tell you what I do, John, let me tell you what I believe about business owners. Now, what you do then is build a marketing plan around that first step, which is the referrals that you're getting from existing clients, and around the second step and all the parts of that. And that's how you own a niche. You choose what the marketing people call an avatar, which is someone that's an ideal client for you. You choose one service that they need. Parents with young children, they may need more insurance. They may want to save for college. They may want to know how you can get all that without saving for college. There's a lot of things you can offer them. Lead with one. If you look at anybody's advertising, they lead with one thing. Choose one service. Create an explanation of services for that service and use that everywhere. Use that when you're talking. Use that on LinkedIn and on Facebook, and if you have a website, on your website. Um, and you can develop a niche specific marketing plan. So in Ron's case, one of the networks that he kept going to wasn't a business network. We stopped that immediately. And we took his Facebook posting and we reduced the Facebook posting because he's going to get a much better return with business owners on LinkedIn and using things like Sales Navigator. And then you just have to work your plan. And step two is complete that way. So now we go to step three, which is to build the growth engine. And that is, as you get more clients, you're going to have more need for free time, for time to do the three jobs that you're supposed to be doing and not doing all these other things. So how do you do that? First is you have to get the right staff in place. And by right staff is you need to start with the least expensive solution to your least profitable problems. And then you need the right technology. And a lot of advisors don't have the right technology. They're terrified of AI, and AI is really useful. You need to have the right systems. The experts identify 9 different systems, including an onboarding system and a referral system. And you need to have systems in place that work for you, that give you quality time with your best clients while not neglecting all the rest of the clients. And you really need to learn how to delegate. And one of the challenges that I run into all the time are advisors who have assistants and they're still doing the work that the assistant should be. Oh, she's got too much to do. I don't want to bother her. That's not the way it works. And you need to start understanding that everything should be delegated if it's worth $25 an hour or less. So that's the third part. Now, the result for Ron is that he broke through to become $1 million producer over. It took him 3 years. I'm not saying it's overnight. He went from 225 to a million, but this year he'll clear $1 million. And again, he can't talk But here's Dan, who I took from 100,000 to
My
500,000.
name is Dan, and at first my goal with Sandy was to make $100,000. Eventually, we hit that goal. Practice got bigger. I'm on pace this year to make over a half a million, which is just crazy saying that out loud. All the fundamentals that I worked with Sandy are very important, and without those, I would not be where I am today.
Okay, so one comment I got is, as a solopreneur with 23 households and 34 million assets under management, I find it hard to justify hiring anyone at this stage. Can you address at what point it starts to make sense? When everything you're doing, and that's a great question, Eric, I want to thank you for it. When everything you're doing is only getting you to a place where you want to get to a bigger place. If you don't care how quickly you get to a bigger place, then stick with the idea that I don't need help. It's amazing how you can expand the business. So the answer to your question is when you want to expand the business, that's when you do it. If you're happy with whatever growth you're having now, just keep doing what you're doing now. But for most people, even a part-time assistant, to take 2 hours a week off your back for $25 an hour, that's the right move. And if you think about it this way, if you owned a convenience store and you were the guy went to the back to bring in the deliveries, and then you had to label them and put them on the shelves, and then you had to run the coffee machine and the lotto machine, and you're doing all of those things yourself, it's a mistake, and you'd be out of business in a month. In this business, it's the same concept. If you want to grow, you have to put something in place to grow. I hope that answers your question. Top advisors only have three jobs: get in front of new business, oversee the happiness of existing clients. Sometimes you can do it yourself. A lot of it is your job. A lot of times there are things you can delegate. You want to get a client a gift to surprise and delight them, and you have an assistant. You tell the assistant what you want. The assistant can do it for you. You're still overseeing it, but that's your second job. And the third job is to oversee all the paperwork and the follow-up and calling the insurance company, calling underwriting and following up on records and all of that stuff. Oversee it because you're responsible for it, but don't do everything else. And if you're doing any of that work, you're preventing yourself from growing. And Maria says, if there's someone who will call for me when I'm on vacation or sick, that's a really big help so I can have more me time. And that's the answer too. If you want to grow and you're already working 5 days a week, 40 hours, I promise you, you can grow in shorter time, you know. But if you're okay where you are, that's fine. Every day I talk to people who come to me for one or two answers, and they're fine where they are, and I respect that. Not everybody wants to move from 100,000 to 500,000. So I ask you why listen to me, but really the answer, the thing I want to say to you is listen to them. You heard from, you heard about Ron, you heard from Julia and Karen and Dan. They're telling you that, hey, I want to grow, and this system really helps me grow. You could have the same breakthroughs as these advisors. Look, here's what you're up against. There are over 300,000 financial advisors in the United States alone, and there are over 900,000 people who identify themselves as life insurance agents. If you can't distinguish yourself from them, you've got a strong uphill battle. There's no doubt about it. Online and AI sales are now growing at a rate of greater than 23%. So, yeah, should you be concerned about it? The answer is no, you should use it. And, I and other people can help you use it. A statistic from Financial Planning magazine was 4 out of 10 advisors are worried about AI. There's not that much to worry about if you learn to use it. This is a statistic I gave you before that just matters so much. 57% of clients express dissatisfaction with their current advisor. Now, there's a positive and, double-sided sword here. One is if you're the advisor they're dissatisfied with, then you're not doing what step one here tells you to do. And if they have an advisor they're not satisfied with, that's fair game for you. The truth of the world. Clients prefer to work with experts who understand them as opposed to generalists. If you're a college planning expert, I'm going to hire you over the person who says, I help everybody do everything. But if you go to LinkedIn and you put in financial advisors, you're going to see that over 90% of the advisors show up as generalists. They're saying, I'm a wealth manager, I'm a CFP, I'm a financial planner, I'm a life insurance agent, and not distinguishing themselves from the thousands of other people who do the same work, white crayons in a box of white crayons. Over a quarter of advisors who are trying to grow run into the step three problem, which is inadequate, out of date systems, tech, and employee issues. And you need to master those. And you can do all of this yourself, but you need to make the decision that you're going to do it. Um, this is something that Ron experienced, and I see it every day. Advisors trying all the tried and true methods, the dinner seminars and buying lists, and the old-fashioned way of asking for referrals that get you nothing, and all of the things that even used to work don't work as well as they used to. So, which of these, and there may be more than one, is your brick wall? Let me see what some of the answers are to this. Looks like people are getting shy about answering. That's okay. Let's recap why you're here. It's not because you're not good at what you do, because if you weren't good at what you do, you wouldn't be even approaching the $100,000 in gross revenue mark. You're here because your business just isn't growing the way that you know it can. And if you don't take serious action, if you look at the green line here, you're going to be there for a long time. Where the blue line shows you this is your potential future if you take a shot at making changes, transforming the way you do business now. So the first question is, are you tired of trying all of the old outdated ways to break through to higher revenue? If you're not, keep doing it. And if you're ready for the transformation you need to break through to a 500,000 or 1 million or more without working harder than you already do, look, if you're not, keep trying the same old outdated approaches and hope you hit something that works for you. Everything they ever told you to do works to some extent. The question is, if I'm going to do cold calling and it's 2 out of 100, do I want to make 100 phone calls before I get the 2 leads? If you are ready to make the change, let's talk about the fastest and most effective way to break through and get off that plateau or get out of that roller coaster up and down. It's not guru training. It's not a marketing strategy or a social media posting strategy because everybody tries those and they don't work. It's a transformation in 6 areas that are keeping you stuck that incorporate these 3 steps. The first is the way you're thinking, what you're afraid of, how you're viewing the world, how you're viewing the business, how you're viewing clients. All of these things affect your results. The second is how you're engaging your top clients. Clearly, understanding how to engage them by using great service and surprise and delight tactics is going to help you get referrals to great people who are already qualified and have already, they're already ready to work with you. Having a clear target for new business and being able to explain what you do for that target. Having a marketing plan where all you're doing is working on the things that reach the target or people who can connect you to the target, and you're no longer doing every kind of posting and whatever people are telling you to do. Having a team that can support you in all of this. Sometimes it's just one part-time assistant. Sometimes, some of my clients have four full-time assistants. It depends on where you are and what you need to grow. Now, the best way that I can help somebody is through a one-on-one coaching program that addresses all of these issues. I have smaller programs than this, but this is the one that's guaranteed and that works. In 6 months, you can start to break through. You'll see that you're starting to bring in more business, and you'll have the capacity to support the new business, which is something people are actually afraid of. Like, well, I can't take on any more business. I'm working too many hours as it is. And I guarantee that if we can't increase your gross income in the 6 months from all sources by at least $25,000, you don't pay. And I'll explain to you if you talk to me how that works. But I mean this sincerely. There's nobody who's worked for me, worked with me for 6 months that hasn't at least added $25,000 to their income. So that's why I can make that bold proposal and be certain that I'm not going to lose money. But the thing is, we need to talk to see if this or another program is for you or if I can refer you to someone. In this program, I can only add three more advisors because my practice is basically full into the 180-day program, but I do have other programs. So what I'm going to suggest you do is get yourself on my schedule next week for a conversation. You just get on the schedule next week. It may be a conversation we have 2 weeks from now. And all you have to do to get there is to go to Sandy Schussel, spell it right, so you get there.com/conversation, and you'll get to my calendar. Here's what we'll do in the breakthrough session. First, I'm going to help you get a crystal clear vision of what you want your business to look like and where you want it to take you. Second, we'll uncover the hidden challenges. There are real challenges, but a lot of the challenges are hidden inside you. And I like to work very quickly to pull that out of you. You're going to leave the session renewed, re-energized, and inspired to turn your business into a highly profitable revenue generating machine. It happens for everybody. They get off that call and they feel a million times better. You'll experience for yourself whether working with me as a coach over the next 6 months can help you break through. Some people say, I'm not sure, and that's fine. Break through to a lot more money without increasing your hours. Again, sandyshassel.com conversation. And only if you want to, we'll give you the details of the Business Breakthrough Coaching Program or another program that I might think suits you better. And we'll talk about the prices and all of that stuff. But only if you want to, because the one thing I guarantee you is that what we won't do is make you feel pressure to get into this or any program. I don't have a need that I have to add somebody to my business. I can only take on three in the bigger program. So there's not going to be any sales unless you want to hear about a program that might be right for you. And if you do this by Tuesday, if you make the appointment, you don't have to see me by Tuesday, but if you make the appointment by Tuesday, I'll throw in access to my Mastering Clients Introduction video program. Some of you on this call are already in that program. And I'll also throw in the two books and all of my online assets for you to play with. Book by Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. For the bonuses. And if you don't do it by then, you may end up on my waiting list. You'll certainly miss the bonuses. Here again is the link to my calendar, sandyshassel.com/conversation. I hope some of you get off this call and take a chance, talk to me. You're not going to be sold anything, and you are going to walk away with some valuable stuff from that call. And with that, let's get back to the meeting. I have about a minute for questions, but I'll stay longer. So some of you have to run. But if you have questions, throw them into the chat and we'll answer them. And those of you who responded, thank you for that. I really appreciate the response. And if you don't have a question and you're still here, give me a comment. This was helpful. It wasn't helpful. I wish, there was more time, something so that I know whether I should keep doing this program or do something different. Okay. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. Anybody else? Questions, comments? It's important for you. It's important for me. Good. Thank you, Rob. Again, if you're not serious about expanding, growing, accelerating that growth, let it roll. See what happens. Thanks, Mark and Maria. Good. And some of you have heard me speak before. Some of you have worked with me. That's great. But I want you to see what the whole big picture is. Anybody else? All right, then. I appreciate you took an hour of your time to find out what's going on here, what this is about. It really works. You just have to commit to it, and you don't have to do anything but commit to a conversation. If it's going to work, it'll work. And if it's not, it's not. If it's a match, it's a match. If it's not, it's not. And I won't even bring it up unless you want to hear what it would sound like. And with that, thank you for letting me occupy your time. I hope you got a lot out of it.